Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. We're running just a tad late. We had a meeting that ran over, and like to say thank you for those of you who are here. And if you would bow with me, and I'll open us in prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, for another day in your kingdom, we're eternally grateful for all the blessings you give us. We say thank you. Lead us and guide us as we care about the business of this state. Let us do things that would make you proud of us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Again, thank you for being here, and we're going to get started because we got to be out of here by 10. And I'm new. I don't know how long y'all can talk until last week. And remember, these are supposed to be short discussions. We're not here to hold a subcommittee meeting. First on, Mr. Burns, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Good morning. I bring to you House Bill 179. I know that you've anxiously awaited the outdoor advertising bill, and I will be, Mr. Chairman, I will be brief, and will ask at the appropriate time. I'd also like to offer an amendment to House Bill 179. Most of you are aware, and you should have that amendment on your desk shortly. If you do not, don't have it yet. They're running it now. It will be back. I'll go ahead and address the amendment. What the amendment actually does is before I get into a couple of quick points on the bill, the amendment will address the issue that's come up in the last few days, in the last week, about the physical shortfall that could exist in this program. I will remind you that the outdoor advertising program is mandated by FHWA Federal Highway, and the DOT is responsible for providing this program. Now, but what we're proposing to do, we felt like we'd address the issue in the bill as the current language, but we want to go a step further. We want to make sure we're going to raise the fees on renewals, and that's where the money comes from in outdoor advertising that will cover all of the cost of the department. It will be no net cost to the citizens of our state to administer this program. That's what this the amendment will deal with. Real quick. Outdoor advertising is something we've dealt with over the years. What we propose to do in this bill, now the current law allows a 500-foot view zone that can be gone in and trimmed by the current legislation, current rules. We propose to narrow that view zone down to a maximum of 250 feet at the sign, 350 feet at the edge of the pavement. I believe that view zone will be even smaller, because of the fact that they're going to be paying for the vegetation removal out of that view zone. So I believe that from a business model, that will be lowered. One of the reasons I got involved in this issue was I wanted to see, I don't particularly like skyscraper billboards that extend up on the horizon. This bill also has provisions in it to bring down those faces when you apply for this visual relief. Brings them down to 75 feet. That's the first step in the process. The money also that comes in from, there's no change in the current way we determine the cost of the vegetation removal. That stays the same. I believe that money will still go into beautification projects. Local control of the billboard issue is still in existence. We're going to bring in obscenity standards now that exist for the digital billboards. They will apply to the static faces. We believe that's very important. And this we believe, will reduce, it incentivizes, has some incentives in it to reduce the number of signs in Georgia. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have questions? Mr. Willard.
Thank you. Representative Burns, I was not aware of this situation regarding the financial impact that this is having on Georgia as far as the cost, but I notice there's not a fiscal note attached to the bill itself, and I'm concerned that we're looking at an area that we don't have any information about. What is the cost of Georgia? What is the expected revenue flow that comes from the signs? Could we ask that there be a fiscal note attached to this bill.
Mr. Chairman, we actually do have the new numbers from the Department of Transportation, GDOT, that speak directly to that cost and what the revenues were up until this point, and we also address the issues that under the current proposal, we double those, but the amendment, we ensure that those costs are covered.
I appreciate that. My concern is we haven't had the Office of Budget look at it and give us a fiscal note. I think there's been some confusion from what I've heard coming out of the Department of Transportation vis-a-vis what is their cost and what is anticipated as a need to have revenues covering those costs. And I think it would be helpful for the committee if we had a fiscal note. And I wonder if you'd be able to do that. Well,
we have the costs and the budgets, the actual budget that comes from the Department of Transportation, that I'll be glad to furnish to you.
May I follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The other thing is the signs themselves. We all see the signs, you say they're above the trees or up atop the trees. No one compels a sign company to put those signs there. That's their election, is it not?
According to the law, if they want the signs to be seen under the current legislation, that was the only way that they could have any visibility of those signs to benefit their customers.
Is there any compensation under the bill for any removal of these trees as far as payment to the state, or does it stand as a gratuity?
There's absolutely. Does the payment to the state, or does it stand as a gratuity when you remove the vegetation cut? Is that what you're asking?
Remove the trees.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I think, as you probably know, Georgia, you may not know, excuse me, Georgia right now, the outdoor advertising pays the highest cost in the nation. There will be a minimum of $4,000 paid into the transportation of the enhancement fund, beautification, roadside beautification fund with this bill. And most of the time, most of these vegetation removal plans are much higher than that. But that is the bare minimum.
Thank you.
Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, is it not true that, and you said this earlier, that the federal highway requires the state of Georgia to have this program that we're currently under? And under this bill that we have now, and concerns about a fiscal note, we're required to operate this program and have been operating this program for years and years. And under the new bill, won't the fees, without your amendment, double, so we will actually be gaining more money to go into this program than is currently there now? So as far as the fiscal note goes, we haven't had one in the past, and under this bill, now we're going to double the amount of fees collected, and with your amendment, it's going to be a no net cost to the state anyway. Is that not correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Renner. You're on.
Not yet.
Go to bid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is to you, Chairman Meadows. In the abundance of caution, I would just like to suggest that due to the precarious nature of our budget right now, that until we receive a fiscal note, that perhaps we might consider holding the bill.
I've had the bill since Wednesday. We've been holding it. Mr. Smith.
To my friend here, I'm looking at a comparison between the current law versus House Bill 179. The current law requires a performance bond. The new law, House Bill 179, does not require a performance bond. Is that true? We've got crews out, private crews out removing trees. Shouldn't they have a performance bond?
I think there is a performance bond in the legislation. I will identify it to you.
Okay, please do. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Then it will be forfeited, yes, if the work is not performed satisfactorily up to DOT specs.
No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask for your favorable consideration on House Bill 179 and the amendment. And Mr. Chairman would ask it if it be possible, we'd like to bring it to the floor if it passes in a modified structure standard.
In the words of my vice chairman, you can bet on that. Okay, Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'd like to bring before you today and ask for your permission to bring forward the education bills that I have today. First, I'd like to call House Bill 192. Ask you to look at that one. It's substitute to House Bill 192, LC 334040S. And basically what this bill does is this summer, the Speaker called a group together to look at the education funding, the QBE funding in the state. And since then, we have gotten with the Governor, and the Senate and the House worked together this summer, and we pulled together a proposal for studying the QBE formula for funding of education. And what this bill basically does is it creates a commission composed of 27 people appointed by the Governor. The Speaker will appoint the legislative group and a citizen, and the Senate will do some appointments, 27 people to form a study commission to engage in the study of the QBE funding formula for education. What is so interesting, this committee also will be empowered to call together ad hoc committees made up of teachers, counselors, principals, superintendents, etc., during this study to really do a thorough study. The beauty of this commission that has never done before is this is a joint commission that's done legislatively. We've had several attempts in the past, and none have been successful since QBE. And we feel this one will because it's legislatively done, a joint commission by the Governor and the House and the Senate. And they haven't been before. It's been business people doing it, and it has not been a joint study. This commission also will be looking at things in the study like the QBE formula. They'll be looking at state and local school partnerships. You know, the 5 meal buy-in, what the partnership should be, student transportation, equalization, that's really critical. We'll be looking at capital outlay, charter schools, career technical, agricultural education, teacher pay, QBE grants, and we'll take and for the first time look at all Title 20 provisions. We've been doing this for 25 years. What do we need to eliminate now? When this QBE was started, we didn't even have technology. Technology was a rotary phone at those times, so we need to look at that. One beauty of this study that we haven't had before is there's a timeline. If you look on the back page, this one is specified. It won't drag on and on like many of them have. It has a timeline. It will be started on May 15th, 2011. It concludes on December the 31st with recommendations for the legislation for that time. And the beauty again of this study is all recommendations, Mr. Chairman, will be prioritized. We're not saying this is going to cost less, going to cost more. We don't know what it will be, but we will prioritize our recommendation, and as money is available, then we will try to implement with the timeline these items. So I ask your favorable support for this recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
It's me or you won. I don't know. No questions? Another wonderful job. Would you want to do?
May I do one more?
Never mind. Wait a second. Ms. Hughley.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Hughley.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I to understand that you're going to have 3 co-chairs of this?
No, 2. There'll be the chair of the House and the chair of the Senate will co-chair this. That's it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank
And I want you to know your leader signed on to this. And this was a bipartisan project because we had Democrats and Republicans all summer working on it together. And so it's been a very good bipartisan study. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, no.
May I do it?
Do another one.
All right. I'd like to ask if you would look at House Bill 172. As part of this, because of this QBE study, and because we're doing Race to the Top that's going to be going on at the same time we receive the major grant, and we're looking at a 2 to 3 year timeline for this, we're asking that you do the following, that you allow us to extend the timeline for our flexibility for schools. As we all, and freshmen may not be aware, but we passed some legislation 2 years ago that because of the budget crunch and the problems we were having with budget, that it granted flexibility to school systems as far as expenditure control. That's how they use their monies for certain things. things. It also gave flexibility for class sizes. It gave flexibility for contracts. When they, instead of the April timeline, it extended it to May. So we gave them the school system some flexibility. And in 2013, we have a law in place right now that every school system is going to have to choose. They're going to have to choose to either be an IE square, that's complete flexibility, or a charter system, or they're going to have to choose to stay as they are under state regulations. So what we're doing, because of these studies and not realizing and not knowing right now what we're going to find when we go through these studies and with the race to the top, we're going to ask you to extend that timeline to 2015. Our budget people tell us, and in the budget hearings we've heard, next year we know the budget's going to be tough, 2013 a little tough, but we see some relief hopefully in 14 and 15. And we feel in 2015, as the budget starts improving, we know we can't restore it all at once, but we'll be prioritizing these items. I'm asking you to allow school systems to have this planning time and this flexibility for at least till 2015 to get the thing done. We're not changing any law, people. None of this is new. We already give it to them. We're just extending the timeline from 2013 to 2015. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Questions?
Okay.
Another real good job.
May I, the last one, may I?
You're on a roll.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like for you to look at House Bill 173. Now, this is a bill that I'm presenting for Kelly Henson, who is the head of the PSC, Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission is called on from time to time to investigate teachers for various offenses. They do the investigation, and when they do the investigation, if they find that the person is innocent, they exonerate the person. By law today, the person has been declared innocent, but they close those records, and they have been storing those records for years. They have records that are very old, but these teachers are innocent. They've been cleared. All they're asking, if you look down there on that bill on line 19, they're asking that you allow them, the commission, to expunge, to destroy those records, and that's what they want to do. They can't do it now, but they're cleared. No one can open them. They can't be looked at by anyone. They're just holding them in a vault over there, and this is allowing them to clear the records. Mr. Chairman, that's that bill.
Questions?
Thank you.
Ms. Hughley?
Yes, I do have one question.
Yes. On which one this?
This is on 173. That's what we were talking about, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I applaud you all for doing this because expungement is something that we need to talk about. So you're saying that these records are going to be destroyed, and when the person's file is reviewed, this is not going to come up at any further time?
No. Well, by law today, they can't be opened up. Once they're found innocent, they can't open those files and use them anyway. So they're going to be destroyed forever. They're gone.
Okay.
Yes.
You got more.
Oh, boy, okay. Oh, this is a good one.
Mr. Wright.
Yes, sir. My attorney, I yield to you.
No, wait a second. Let me be in charge.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, thank you. As a fellow Guanetian, I applaud your work. Just wanted to get back to 192 for a second.
Yes,
on page
sir.
5. There seems to be an open-ended commitment to allow contracts to be added with auditors, attorneys, financial consultants, education experts, economists, other individuals as deemed appropriate. Is there? I just wanted to know if there's any budget support.
Now, where are you?
I'm looking at lines 152 and 154 and 192.
Yes, if you look over on page 72, it talks about how these things will be paid. All the necessary funds to carry out this study will be appropriated by the House of Representatives, the Senate. Also, the Gates Foundation has committed to help fund this study.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify. As I read your bill 173 about the record
yes, sir.
Expungement, there is a schedule that they have to still recognize as far as retention of those records for a period of time.
7 years.
Which is 7 years. Thank
yes,
you. I want to clarify that. Thank you.
That's by law. Is that not correct?
Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Coleman, just a quick question. I'm trying to think of a hypothetical situation where it might be problematic. If you have a situation where there's an investigation, no probable cause is found, that a violation has occurred, 7 years, passes, and then the records are destroyed. Hypothetically, couldn't you have a situation where new facts come to light many, many years later? They want to go back and check a previous statement. If those files have been destroyed, albeit after 7 years, understood, then they're not going to have that record to relate back to. I'm not saying that that's a usual occurrence. I'm sure it would be all too rare, but it is a little concerning. I can see the efficiency argument for this, but it's a little concerning just on the off chance that people hold information for a long time sometimes, and then after a while it just eats at them.
Well, this person,
they come forward with it, and if it's after a period of time, where those records have been destroyed, then investigators have nothing to relate back to in terms of who gave a truthful statement at what time and when.
Commissioner Henson tells me that this is for people who've been found innocent.
Right.
So once they're found innocent, they're innocent. The cases are closed, and he says by law now they're not allowed to reopen them. So you'd have to ask my attorney friends, and you're an attorney friend that could tell me. But he said they're closed anyway, and they can't be reopened for any reason, so that's why they want to destroy them.
So if Mr. Chairman, just a brief follow-up to make sure we have clarification, so that even after a certain period of time, if new facts come to light, if they're found innocent, the state does not have the ability, even if they've been found innocent, to open up that file again to check statements and how they may relate to past statements and how they may relate to current statements and see if they're consistent. You're saying the state does not have the ability to do that right now.
That's what I understand. That was my understanding. Because he said they're closed and cannot be opened. I asked that question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're going to go to Mr. Kidd now. Let's see. You'd be 47?
House Bill 74 came about from Georgia Military College in GMC. And what
do I have a comment? Go ahead.
Thank you. And what they found out was there were students at GMC who wanted to commit to go into the military after they finished their education. And what this bill does would permit them to, in the future, when funds are made available, set up a mechanism by which they would come back to the legislature and say we have 15 students or 10 students who want to sign this commitment letter to say after education they want to go into the military and participate in the tuition equalization grant program. It doesn't have a fiscal note because there's no funds attached to it. It says when funds are made available, the school will set up a criteria for the commitment letter, come back to the legislature in the future and say we have 5 students who want to commit this and ask for the money at the appropriate time in the future.
Do we have questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Purcell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm here to actually consider House Bill 161. It is known as the motorcyclist bill, concerned with the red light and the sensors that are at those red lights. Due to the fact that many have motorcycles that are lightweight, they do not have the metal necessary to trip the sensors, so the lights will change so that you can make a left turn, or whether the light will change so you can go forward. This bill was introduced last year and passed. The only difference in it is that we have gone to 60 seconds that an individual will need to wait at the traffic light to make sure that the signal is not going to turn. It also indicates to them that because of the inoperable sensors that you could go through that red light without being ticketed. Now you can go through with caution. If there is an oncoming car and you did not yield to that car, then you're at fault as the one driving the motorcycle, not the vehicle that's coming through. I would ask your consideration and the passage of this to be put on our calendar for the floor. Thank you.
Mr. Willard.
Thank you, Representative Purcell. One, I guess, thing I'm going through my mind, we're really relying on somebody's honor system about this question of how long you sit at a light and wait for that determination. would not the person also be able to make a right turn and then from that right turn seek to turn around and come back through as an alternative as opposed to waiting there for 60 seconds?
That would work out real well if you did not have 2 or 3 lanes over to either go through or make that right hand. The bikes are very heavy, and sometimes in order to go across those lanes of traffic, you're endangering more individuals by just if you would wait and then make your left turn. So it's a big concern for safety also for the cyclists.
Another question I have, this would apply to motorcycles, but traffic laws also apply to people on bicycles, and they would have still the responsibility to wait until that light changes before they could go through.
This does not address bicycles. It only addresses the motorbikes because of the weight of them. If you have a heavier bike, there's no problem. Sensors will note that those bikes are there. But at some of your lighter bikes, such as a Honda 250, a lot of times it will not trip them.
Appreciate that. The thing I'm concerned about is we're authorizing, in effect, someone to do a violation of what is a statutory requirement in one classification.
And I understand that, but I also know that we break the law because we can't get the sensor to trigger, and we can't get the cars to pull up the side of us because sometimes it may be at night and they don't know if we're waving like this that we're good people or what may happen with road rage as it is today. So we're just trying to make it so that we can go through without, quote, breaking the law, understanding that we have to proceed with great caution.
Thank you, Ms. Purcell. Mr. Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I have 2 bills before you today. First one, they're rather companion bills, so I'll just make the explanation once and ask any questions. House Bill 193 and 194. Both of these are bills that solely have to do with my home county of Union. Due to rule changes in the House that I was unaware of when I submitted this bill last year, any bill that pertains to the partisan status of a local election must come through as a general bill. What I'm asking for in 193 is that my local magistrate judge and in 194 my local probate judge be moved from partisan status to nonpartisan status. As you know, 74 probate judges in the state are currently nonpartisan. This would only affect the change in my local county of Union, no others. And for that, I would ask for your favorable consideration.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jaspers.
Thank you, committee. Sorry I'm late. I'm learning. I've got.
So am I. I had to send somebody after you. I can't imagine.
Who's my mentor?
I don't know. I don't know.
This is House Bill 223.
We share a district, y'all.
House Bill 223. And it simply is a bill that would allow Georgia poultry growers to use a different standard of construction of their houses. This standard's been identified by NRCS to save them money. The plan is certified by the Midwest Plan Service, and all it really changes are the plants in their snow load and their wind shear capacity. Should save them significantly in building buildings on this at a less cost.
Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick, now make sure to clarify, this only applies if you're using the NRCS program. This does not apply if a person wants to go out there on their own and build their own stack house. If they're going through that program, this is the specifications. Correct?
Yes, sir. If they're doing a cost share with NRCS, this is when it applies. It allows them to use, instead of the national building standard, a standard that NRCS has approved.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you.
hope you can sincerely rule favorably on my. What am I supposed to say exactly? I see everybody out here mouthing something to me.
This group would like to hear the word please. They haven't yet.
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Bearden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bring forth today House Bill 90. House Bill 90 will allow our local governments and our state to create partnerships, basically with DNR, to protect our state parks and historical sites. This bill went through a lot of work in committee. What it will allow is those areas that have a heritage preservation designation to go through a process so a county can take over that park or a city can take over that park and preserve that park. I wanted to go quickly over the protections in place. First, we must have a willing county or local government to take the property. DNR must be willing to transfer the property. There must be a public hearing involved for public comments and for transparency to what's going on. DNR has to make a determination to remove the heritage preservation designation. DNR, when it transfer that title, put in place a conservation easement and include all restrictions applicable to the property to secure the property's use for the future. It also allows monitoring through the DNR Conservation Easement Monitoring Program. Assuming everything is taken care of and the approval of DNR, conveyance of the property would need to be approved by the General Assembly and the State Properties Commission. And finally, down the road, if a county or local government could not continue the upkeep of that park or historical society, there's a reversion clause that would bring it back to DNR so it would stay with the state. But it's truly just a partnership between the counties and local governments in the state to protect our parks and make sure they stay open. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Question, Tommy, or Donna's? All right. Ms. Sheldon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Today I bring for you House Bill 137. House Bill 137 is a GDOT housekeeping bill. There are several sections that one has to do with revises the term of the Director of Planning. Legislation past couple, creating the Director of Planning basically said his term would expire when the governor leaves office. Obviously, that caused some challenges, so we just changed that to say that he remains Director of Planning until he's reappointed by a new governor or a governor makes an appointment. One of the sections, I guess Section 4, we made some and had a lot of discussion about that in committee and made several changes, and I definitely think for the better. Has to deal with and clarifies the definition of an asbestos pipe and determining when an asbestos pipe should be removed. They're very, very expensive, and so we made sure that in order for the department to declare a pipe has to be removed, it has to be in conflict, and gave a little more definition to that whenever it's in the way of a highway improvement, and also added basically who's responsible for that. And in Section 7, we exempt GDOT from one of the challenges a couple of years ago, whenever DDS, now DOT takes, I guess, does fatality accidents, and they have those records. And so now this legislation would exempt GDOT from having to comply with open record requests for listings of individuals who die in motor vehicle crashes. That's definitely been a loophole that some attorneys have found, and so we need to close that. Currently, law enforcement agencies are already exempt. Also, it changes the way that local municipality, counties, and cities basically report changes to their roads. Okay, I ask for your favorable consideration.
Do we have questions? Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, I just want a little clarification on the Director of Planning. Am I to understand that if the governor doesn't appoint him, if a new governor doesn't reappoint this person or doesn't appoint a new director, the current director will still have to be confirmed by the House and Senate? And if they're not confirmed, then what happens?
Well, this just allows that we continue to have a director of planning. You know, we have to make sure that the new governor has time to make his appointment. And at that point, the governor would make his appointment and the House and Senate Transportation Committee would confirm. So this just confirms that the position for director of planning stays.
So the person will just stay in position until such time as a new appointment is made. That's what you're trying to say.
Ms. Drenner?
Yes.
I just would like to ask you a little bit about the asbestos section. Can you further explain who's going to be doing the evaluation to determine if encapsulation is required or not?
The department will, but if you'll look on line 132, it says that if a project comes within 24 inches of the facility being exposed, then the entity would pay for it to be removed. But if it doesn't, then it goes to the department. So it clarifies that they can only ask cities and counties to remove the asbestos pipe if it comes in direct conflict or 24 inches. So it definitely gives some clarification.
Any more questions? The Vice Chair.
With regard to the, Madam Chair, with regard to the question you just answered about who has responsibility depending on the location of the pipe, if it's within 24 inches, it's the local governing authority. Is that right? And if it's beyond 24 inches, it's the state. Does this language represent agreement between the state and ACCG on that issue?
We've definitely worked with them to reach some type of resolution. So,
thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to call the committee's attention to House Bill 126. This would designate April 19th as Patriots Day here in Georgia. We're not asking for holiday status. We're just wanting people to remember the events that occurred on April the 19th, 1775. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have questions? Okay. Mr. Willard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask the committee's support on Bill 24, which is the evidence code rewrite. Those on the committee will recall last year this passed the House. Overwhelming vote. There was a hold up in the Senate. It came out of their committee but didn't reach the floor. We're back this year. This is a comprehensive rewrite of our entire laws on evidence under the Georgia Code. It is also setting up the model code where we will be the 45th state to adopt what is known as the model rules of evidence, which deals with the admission of the spoken word and written documents and pictures into court for evidence. And I ask for the committee's support for it. Thank you.
Questions? Okay. Let's go through them.
Make a motion at some time.
We'll open it to the Secretary. He wants to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I've spoken with the author of House Bill 127, that's Representative Holt, dealing with amateur radio operators, and they've got some language that they want to work out in committee, and he's asked me to move to recommit that bill back to motor vehicles.
Do I see any objection to that?
Second.
It's moved back to committee, recommit. Okay. I hear move on HB 90. Okay. Any objection? Okay. HB1, wait a second. That's under modified open. That 90. Everybody okay with that? All right, then HB 126. Any objection? HB 137.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that it be held over till Thursday. The author of the bill has asked that the bill be held over till Thursday.
I have Thursday written down. Okay. HB 161 under open. Any objection?
161 is modified structure.
Modified structure, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Modified structure.
See, there's another good instance where my thing. Wendell got me on that the other day. I got one thing down here in modified structure. Modified structure then on that. Any objection? HB 172 under modified structure.
Move.
Any objections? HB 173 modified structure.
Move.
Any objection? HB 179 modified structure.
All in favor?
Let me. And that's going. That bill has an amendment, which is AM 340475, and that would be a floor amendment, not a rules amendment. We've got objection and a move to bring it to the floor. I'll ask for a show of hands. All those.
We need to vote on the amendment first.
Okay. Mr. Willard.
I would ask the bill be held over an extra day. I want to get some more information about this financial impact that was addressed this morning for the first time.
Okay. All right, we've got the amendment. Do I have a move on the amendment?
Move.
Any objection to the amendment? Okay, the amendment's good. All right. Those in favor? I've got, I want to see a show of hands anyway. All those in favor to move to the floor, raise your hand high.
As amended.
As amended. Okay, those opposed? Okay.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. I'm still on hold with everything. HB 192 under modified structure.
Move.
Do I hear a second? Any objection? Okay. HB 193 under modified structure. Do I hear a move? Have a move. Any objection?
Open. 193.
It's. I'm not going to let it go. No, I haven't done the calendar. All right, on 193, I've got a move and a second. Any objection? And I have it down as modified structure.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd move that it be placed under modified structure.
I'm gonna hold that one. Go to HB 223.
Move.
Any objection?
23 is a building code.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Back to HB 126, if we could move that to a higher structure so that that bill won't become a Christmas tree for other things. I think, it's designed to do a particular thing, and I think we might want to move that designation.
What number?
126. 126. We need to move that so that we're only talking about that particular item and not use it as a vehicle for other things.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that.
Okay, I move in a second. Change what we stick that under, and I'll put it under modified structure if there's no objection. All right. Okay, we'll do the calendar. We're going to have HB 90. HB 172. HB 192. HB 223. And that's it.